This week on the Sports Initiative podcast, I sit down with Mulder FK performance analysis and academy coach Laurie. He discusses his work within the academy and how they use performance analysis to aid their player development, the processes he goes through whilst analysing games, and the pro license paper from Andrea Perlo and how this informed his thinking. As always, if you enjoy this podcast, please help us in growing by recommending it to a friend. I hope you enjoy. So, Eric, first of all, appreciate you jumping on. As we've just caught up just before, you have had a match tonight, so I know you've been running around a little bit trying to sort stuff out. I guess first, the most important question, how are you? How is everyone? Are you all safe and well?
Thanks for having me on, Michael. Everything is going good here. As we discussed earlier, I had the match tonight, so it's been a bit busy getting home and getting through the match, but now we're here, so yeah, everything is good on my end.
Perfect. So obviously I came across your work on social media, some of the analysis work that you've done, which I thought looked really good and really interesting, and we'll kind of go into that a little bit later on. Just for those of you, for those people that aren't necessarily aware of your background, etc., do you just want to go through, I guess, what your current role is, what club you're at, I guess a little bit of a summary how you got there?
Yeah, I can start with my current role. I'm working at Molde FK in Norway, predominantly around the academy. I guess I have two main roles, which would be the head of academy performance analysis. That covers, we have a reserve team, under 16s, under 14s. We also have a women's team or girls team in our academy as well, but we have another guy who works there with me. Also have working as an assistant with the under 16s. So that's my main role right now. I've had quite a few different roles in my time in the club. I've been there since 2014. I started here, so I've had roles as head of the pre-academy, which is like our under 8s to under 10s after school stuff. In charge of our football schools, football camps. Used to work with the under 14s. Done a little bit of stuff with the first team around the analysis side. So also I actually, when I started out of the club, it was as a keeper coach. So it's pretty much a little bit of everything. But as you said, now it's started to, I guess, go a bit more into the analysis is maybe my main role. And that's where I probably will continue going in the future, as I think. It's impossible to know, but but before the club, then I moved to Norway in 2012. So I started in the club in 2014, as I said. I just started doing some keeper stuff, and I actually got in. I was taking my master's degree in Molde, so I started in the club through that. Just got to know some people working there and got a bit lucky getting my foot in the door. Did some coaching back in the United States. I was at a smaller university, so I had a bit of a coaching background, scouting before I moved to Norway. So I guess that's pretty much the short version, I guess.
So this is a bit of a random question, but why Norway? It's a bit of a jump. So why Norway?
That's a easy answer. My wife is Norwegian, so it's just happened to move here. We met in the United States and moved here. We moved here together after we finished school in the United States.
Okay, makes complete sense now. So, in terms of Molde as a setup and as an academy, can you just talk through what the academy setup actually looks like? What age groups maybe you run to and from, and games wise, what do you guys do for a games program?
Yeah, I guess to start at the top of the pyramid, we have a reserve team, which is mostly under 20s to under 17s together on one side. Their main their main series match. They play in what would be the third division, which is the fourth tier of Norwegian football, is their main match arena. They also have a under 18 national series, which is against the other clubs from the top two divisions, their junior sides, which is under 18 national league, they call it. And yeah, those two squads are filled up from the reserve team. There also can be some first team players maybe coming back from injury or needing some game time who might jump in with the third division or second division, team there. Then we have the under 16s, which is our main series or league, is the under 16 national, what they call it in Norway. That's just, again, the academy teams, so the other top two tiers, their academy sides. We also sometimes depend, just in our club specifically, we maybe have one year where we have a pretty big group of players from that age. So then maybe the next year is quite small. It's just we have a really small area where we recruit from, I guess. So it depends how many players each year is quite up and down. So sometimes we'll also play in the under 16, I guess we call it local division, with our under 15s and under 14 players, just to, since we're recruiting, but then we play up 1 or 2 years there. And then we also have under 14s, which is playing the same as 18s and 16s with the national series against the top sides. And then that group is comprised of the under 13s and 14s, so they will also play in the under 14 local series as well. So we have quite a few match arenas where we mix and match and make sure everybody gets enough game time, and put players in their right matching what's best for them at that time. And then below that we have, like I said earlier, the under 8s to under 10s in our after school program, which is a bit more it's no recruiting or anything. There's just anybody can join, and just to get players familiar with the club, familiar with the way we do things in our models and stuff like that. And then there's also we call it the player development groups, where we, before they get into the academy, where we we'll maybe invite some players and have some trainings, which is maybe one way for us to see the local players that aren't currently in the club, and give other players a chance, and as opposed to just going to matches and looking and stuff. So there's a few different ways that we can do recruiting through that.
So in terms of recruitment of players, do you stay localized with your recruitment, or do you kind of go nationwide? How does that look?
Basically, Molde is one of the, I don't have the exact numbers, but we're one of this actual city is one of the smallest that has a team in the Premier Division, and we pretty much only, our academy is pretty much only local players from we're around 25,000 people in the region area city, and pretty much most of the academy is from stay local. And I guess the culture here is pretty respected, as far as where clubs and where players belong to, I guess you would say.
Perfect. And obviously within like the UK, etc., and experiences out here, every kind of club has their own identity of what a player might look like, or a way they might like to play. You hear it a lot in terms of like the West Ham way or the Southampton way or whatnot. Is that the same over in Norway? Does each club have their own identity of the type of players they recruit and the type of way they'd like to play?
I think on the surface, you could definitely say, the academies have their ideal type of players, and the way they want to play and stuff. But just like I said, 25,000 people in the area, it's always we're open-minded to, players are going to develop at different stages and different ways. So, it's I guess it's more is, you know, finding the talents in the players we feel that we can have a chance to work with, and then develop them and form them a bit more into our system and the way we want to play once they've joined, if that makes sense.
And if I was to come and watch you at a weekend or watch one of your sides at a weekend, what would I expect to see? What would I expect to see on the ground?
That's a good question. We It's something we work on quite a bit as far as our identity and how how we would look from the outside or the inside for that matter. And I would say most of our sides we're moving with the modern trends. We have teams that like to control possession, as most teams like to. We have players that like to press high and an aggressive style where we have a lot of players who can dominate one-on-one and at the same time work collectively as a team. We have a lot of players and coaches who like an aggressive attacking style, and I think you could see that if you came.
And in terms of a working week for you guys, how many sessions would they do per week? What type of things would you work on within that? And game days, I'm assuming, is that Saturday, Sunday? Like, what formats would they be in, etc.?
Everything is a bit cloudy as from the past year, obviously. So schedules have changed, and everything, the way we have work has changed quite a bit. But for the national series, it's typically a weekend match, Saturday, Sunday. But right now, for the last 3-4 months, we haven't been playing matches, and then we'll typically have between 4 to 5 football sessions in a week, as well as strength sessions, 2 to 3. Maybe not just strength, but physical, I guess would be the better word. And then we always tie in bits of analysis, before the training, if we just started with some training matches, and we'll bring that in before the match, and maybe some meetings outside, before and after the trainings. So a typical week with 4 or 5 sessions, and the 2 to 3 physical sessions, maybe right after the football is done.
Perhaps. And is that across all those age groups you discussed earlier that are within it, so like 14s up?
I can't say that I have complete control on the under 14s, but I think they look quite similar. And the reserves will maybe have 1 or 2 more football sessions per week. They have an agreement with the local schools, so they can get players out during the day to come in the mornings for sessions, and then maybe some stuff in the evenings, afternoons as well.
Yeah, similar to the day release program we have over here, that you can obviously release players and allow them to catch the work up at different times. And in terms of like a curriculum, etc., do you have a curriculum in place that you guys have to work from, or are you able to kind of guide the learning depending on what's happened during weekend fixtures, etc.?
Yeah, I won't go too much into the details on that. It's obviously a bit club specific, but we do have a cycle that we go off of, and prepare our weekly sessions off of the cycle, which replicates and relates to our game model, and of course then we'll build off the back of that for the matches. But as you would know, working, everything isn't so black and white all the time. So depending on the opposition for that weekend, we might have to have a little different specification on what we might be working on compared to our curriculum or the cycle that we're in. So, but for the most part, we have a pretty set schedule that we work on, but of course we have the freedom to do what we feel is best in the time in the week. So
Yeah, and obviously you mentioned before, and I said the word I seen a lot of it was performance analysis based. So I guess my first question is, what drew you more towards that compared to all the other roles that you do or slash have done? What was it about that that's really stood out?
that's a good question. I guess I guess a few things maybe. I've always been interested a bit more in the tactical side. I guess it's just watching all of the Premier League as most the most popular league most people watch, and just pretty much all the leagues. There's just all these new, always something small, always something changing. I've always had the interest in the tactical side, so I started, just I guess just kind of trying to push my way in. I was a bit friends with the first team analysts back a few years ago, so just try to see how they're doing things and see what they're doing, and just started going from there. And then once the academy was looking to fill that position, and I was from within sight already, so it just ended up working out that way. And in addition to that, I think maybe perhaps it might fit my personality, just like a bit more than coaching. I guess it's maybe a bit hard to explain, but just taking the time and going in a bit deeper into the tactics instead of right then and there on the pitch, or maybe I'm just a bit more laid back, I guess, than the coaching style. So obviously you can change the way you work depending on the role, but it just seems to suit me a bit more, I think.
I guess what you're alluding to there to a degree is like the space to be able to be analytical as well. If you like that side to really delve a little deeper, the footage is a great opportunity to go and do that. And I know particularly in America, the culture out there regarding watching footage and your NFL and stuff is, your quarterbacks earn millions and millions because they spend hours and hours in film rooms doing that type of stuff, and that's a big culture out there. So for you having that analytical background, it probably helped. How did you go about upskilling yourself within that? Because like you said, you came across, it wasn't necessarily the initial path you went on. So what did you do in order to get better at it? And yeah, how did you go out about learning the software, or what software did you use, etc.?
Yeah, that's a good question. I get that question quite often, actually, from I've been on a few other podcasts or something like that, or maybe talking to somebody on LinkedIn or Twitter, and it's a question that comes up quite a bit. And there's no I don't think there's a blueprint or a pathway for everybody to take. It's just kind of your own way. Like I said, I was just always trying to be around it as much as possible with the old analysts in the club, and once if you get lucky enough to have somebody help you along the way, just like I said, started with them. I've taken always looking for different courses online. I've probably taken 3, 4, 5 different courses in the last few years, just random ones that you find online, or just to work a little bit more with the performance analysis side. I just watch as many games as possible, I guess. It's just it's a difficult question to answer. It's just when you really are into something, you just always try to find a new way to improve yourself in that, I guess.
And have you delved into the use of statistics around your performance analysis work as well? Have you done anything with that, or not?
A little. Can you be a little more specific?
So in terms of like GPS statistics, or number of final third entries or anything like that, are they type of metrics that you use? If they are, how do you use them?
Okay, yeah. The GPS, actually, that we have a whole nother guy with that role in the academy. So I don't worry too much about that. As a coach myself, I'm interested in those numbers, and we have discussions around that. But with the analysis role, then that's I don't focus too much on the GPS and that kind of data. And the other part is actually something that in the last year or so I've been trying to develop. It's not the analytics side, I guess. It's not my main focus. I focus more on the video, the performance. But always trying to improve what we have for the players and the coaches. It's the numbers and the data is something I've tried to implement into the the content that I provide to the coaches and the players. But it's not. I wouldn't say it's a important thing. It's just more of a something I'm working on trying to implement right now. But focus is mainly on the video and the performance side right now.
And so, in terms of getting the players to engage with the footage, I imagine you've got all different learners within the groups. Some, like we've just said there, might really engage with the numbers. Others might not care less. And then some might really engage with the footage and others might not. How do you go around setting a provision in place where, I guess, people are engaging with it? And what does that look like in your context?
That's like you said, the players are different. They're all people, and all people are different. So some of them are quite into it. Some of them maybe not so much. And I guess we have to give them that freedom to take it in a bit more if they want, and maybe take a step back a little if they want to. When we have our sessions before the trainings with the video, then of course all players are present, and we try to have an open discussion around there. But as well, we're also utilizing Huddle right now, so me or the other coaches, for example, we can send a lot of stuff out there and try to get discussions going around there, and that's going to be a little more hit or miss with the players. And like I said, they'll have the freedom, and not gonna force them to watch all the video on their free time. But at the same time, if they want to spend as much time as they want, that's great. We every match will be tagged and coded, and all the clips will be put out, so they have that option available to them. But as far as getting them to engage, that's another ever, I guess, evolving process that we try to come up with new ways. Of course, one discussion we've had a lot, and I've spoke with other analysts that I've come in contact with quite a bit, is the difference between us providing all of the, that they always have the video, but us as the club or the analyst providing the clips to the players, and telling them this is what you're seeing now, this is what could be, this is what is good, this is what could be better. Trying to open that up a bit more to the other way, where they have the tools, they have the videos, but maybe they can take out the clips themselves and bring them to us. It's a balancing act, I guess, as far as how much outside of school, how much extra time they have, and how much interest they have in that. But at the same time, they're all academy players and should have that, hopefully have that desire to get better and learn more. So that's definitely something, like I said, we're working on and evolving at all times. There's no blueprint or black and white there. It's just from week to week, the month to month, a little bit different how we can get them to engage. And it's always looking for a new way to try to get them to look at those clips. I'm sure, I think you know what I mean there.
Yeah, for those people that don't know what Huddle is, we have access to it, which is actually, it's a really good tool. Could you just explain what it is as a platform, and then what you're able to do on there to help the players, I guess, learn and also engage with it?
I guess the simplest way to put it would be maybe just like a internal club YouTube channel, perhaps. It's every match that we play, and a lot of the trainings that we have are just put out for each, the reserves, under 16s, under 14s have their own group, and all that. The games will be available to them, as well as watching the full games there. Each instance will be tagged or coded, however you want to phrase that. And that's, for example, if they want to just look at all the buildups from one match, or all the goals, or all of the corners, or each phase is broken down that way, so they can quickly access those if that's part of our curriculum for that week, and that's what they have time to look at. That's basically that's how we, and they can also take out clips themselves that aren't already pre clips. So that's basically how we are using Huddle right now.
Yeah, and I think one of the real strengths of the tool is like the analytical stuff you can do in terms of drawing lines or circles, etc., on there to really highlight players, and you can comment in around it. I think one of the interesting things we've used it for, which you might have experienced with, is where players are sending clips to me saying either I did this really well or I don't understand what happened. And then you're able to open like a dialogue online and say, well, you could have gone here with a little arrow, you could have gone there. It's kind of like a online Sky Sports being able to annotate everything type of deal, which I think has been really useful for the players at our end. I don't know how you found it with your guys.
Yeah, exactly. Especially under the circumstances in the last year when we haven't been able to meet in person quite as often. We've definitely, like just like you said, have that back and forth, and then it's maybe a bit easier, not so formal all the time, perhaps not so much pressure on them to come in and sit down with them and maybe turn it into a formal meeting, but just a little more casual. They have the time to do it when they want to, and if you just want to send them one or two clips, you don't have to call them in after training or before, and it's just like you said, it's put the arrows on or highlight the things and let the players come with their own opinions and ideas. And it's happened before where they've showed me something that I didn't see, and then you can learn from the players sometimes as well. So it's a good tool.
I suppose the holy grail for you as an analyst is players coming to you, like you said there, with clips and asking for help around a subject area or around their individual development area, or what that is. It's them coming to you and saying, there's 2 or 3 examples of stuff that's gone either well or wrong here. Can I have support on this area? And then you acting off the back of that.
Yeah, it's definitely something, like it goes back to the previous question, where how can we get them to engage? So it can be a bit up and down with that, but some players are definitely more interested, in some of them just they love that feedback, and they love the back and forth, and always want to learn more. So yeah, it's a fun experience when the players want to learn more, and you can have that chance to share that information with them.
So in terms of like when you're when you were providing feedback for the lads, are you able to do that live, kind of next to the pitch or next to the session, or is it always retrospective to something that's happened the day before or a couple of days before?
As of right now, we don't have live on the pitch feedback. I do often do live tagging, and then it's available quite soon after the training or after the match to show them. But as far as on the pitch with the iPad, that's not something we've started to utilize yet. No.
And so for you, obviously, as you said, you kind of have got a crossover of 2 roles where you're a coach and you're an analyst. How do those roles work hand in hand? And is there anything that as a coach has improved you as an analyst, or as an analyst has improved you as a coach? Is there any examples you could give around that?
I think actually both being an analyst has improved my coaching, and being a coach has improved my analysis. I think it's I personally feel a bit lucky that I get to experience both roles at once, because working as the coach on during the matches, how you can make adjustments, it's maybe a bit easier. It's made it a bit easier for me to see things while it's happening, as I've watched a lot more matches under those tactical circumstances. And as far as being an analyst, off the back of being a coach, it also maybe it can be a bit more realistic with what you're looking at. Of course, I don't know what it's like to be an analyst without the coaching background, but I could imagine maybe you get some unrealistic expectations of how things might look or how things could play out or develop, or different expectations of the players or the teams. But when I have that, and not only the tactical sense of what the team should be looking like, but I'm also working with the players all the time as well. So maybe I have a bit of a better understanding of what they're capable of under certain circumstances as well. So I guess that helps quite a bit as far as working closely with the players and as the analysts to find circumstances and situations where we could improve or where we were good, which is also maybe the way that I like to work best, is reinforcing the good as opposed to fixing the bad. So I think I definitely think working as a coach and analyst for me personally has helped both ways.
I think it's an interesting concept what you said there, because I would imagine when you are sitting in a office or studio or whatever, and you're looking back at footage, it would be really easy to go, well, if he did this, he did this, he did this, almost like a computer game or Subbuteo, and put everyone in the perfect position. Whereas by you coming at it from a coach's perspective, you might know Liam, who's playing right wing, and actually he's had this specific instruction to stay a little bit higher on for the counter attack or something like that. It might give you a greater impact into what the individual maybe need might be, but also how an individual can then affect what everyone else does.
Yeah, when you asked me that question, it just, I guess it's not something I've thought of so much before, but it just kind of hit me right when you asked me that question. And I definitely working with when I'm analyzing the under 16s, the team that I'm coaching as well, there is instances, like you said, where I can maybe see what we spoke about in the practice before, and then as opposed to when I'm looking back at the reserve team matches, even though I know I know all the players, and I've coached most of them in the past, but I'm not there at every training and every match meeting. So even though I try to have that relationship with the coach, what we're looking at, what they're trying to do, there might be an instruction that he got previously at a different training that I wasn't aware of. And like you said, why is he just standing up there and not coming back? It's happened before where I'm maybe not completely aware, but that's also my job to have that relationship with the coaches on the team that I'm not a part of, to know what we're looking at and know what they're trying to develop and what they're trying to do in each match.
And do you think by watching the amount of footage that you do, because I imagine you're going to get through loads, both kind of with your teams in-house, but also just the amount of football you're naturally going to watch due to the kind of role you're in, do you think it's allowed you to pick up patterns or strategies within game quicker?
I definitely, I think so. It depends a lot as well. How I'm watching the match is another question I've been asked before. If I'm watching a Premier League match on a weekend or something, maybe I don't have full attention on. There's other stuff going on in the house. Then maybe a bit more ball watching. I don't know if that's how you guys would say it, but tend to watch what's happening with the ball. But if I have a bit more freedom, a bit more quietness around me, then I tend to, like you said, I tend to watch the matches in a different way, where sometimes a goal will happen and I don't even know who perhaps even shot the ball, because of trying to look at this, just depending on who's playing and what match it is, with different structures and different patterns, so it's not always right on the ball.
And have you seen, over your time working in this, have you seen trends moving through football? Have you seen different, uh, yeah, again, have you seen like people stealing ideas and it become common thread through the top teams? And if you have you seen any examples of, can you give any examples of that?
Um, one thing about that is when you're analyzing and watching different games, uh, it's it's not always possible to know exactly what the coaches are trying. So I try to avoid that too much, as far as, thinking I know what they're trying to do, because it's easy to see something the way the players are lined up, but that could just be coincidence, if you know what I mean. Like if you're looking at how they're spacing the field, or how they're, positioning and supporting the ball, it could just be, they might have not got that instruction. But as far as the trends go and stuff, I think, we're seeing a lot more of the. It's been quite a lot of discussion lately around playing out from the back, building the play. That's definitely, I think that's definitely something that's fun to watch, and seeing how different coaches and different teams go about that. How they like to draw the pressure, or maybe spread where they're going to put the fullbacks, where they're going to put the central mid, and how wide they're going to put the central defender. So I think playing out of the back and building the play is one of my favorite things to pay attention to right now. And also on the other end, the way teams are setting up once they've established their attacks in the final third, seeing the different different way the numbers to overload the back line, whether it's a 5v4 against the back four, or teams maybe in like a 2-2-6 type of shape formation. So I would say those two, the build up, how they're doing that, and how they're forming their shape in the final third, are perhaps my two favorite trends or ways to look at the game right now.
And is there any particular teams that stand out to you in both of those areas? Or is there any teams that are particularly unique that some they may have heard of, but is there anyone that they might not have heard of that you'll go, actually, they do that in a really different and unique way?
As far as the unique teams, I haven't had. I guess I don't have a ton of time to watch anything outside of the big teams right now. It's the Premier League and the Champions League and stuff like that. So I've really been quite interested in the way Manchester City has been playing lately, as have most people interested in football. A lot of stuff that Liverpool does, as far as putting numbers into the attack and stuff, is quite interesting in the way that they're defending in numbers. I won't say I have any unique teams to look at. I've mainly the bigger teams, what I have time to watch. A lot of stuff that, even though Juventus hasn't had the best of seasons, I'm quite interested in the way Pirlo has developed his team. So I've been trying to watch them when possible, and just the way that they're setting up and defending in and out of possession, and the way they're attacking. So, yeah.
Have you seen changes from them from last year under Sarri?
That's actually a good question, but I didn't particularly watch them too much last year.
Okay.
But this year, I was just something about Pirlo. Well, his pro license paper was made available.
Okay.
I don't know if you've came across that at all, but I found that on Twitter at the start of the season, and to see, it was one of the first times I've ever really seen a coach's thoughts written out, and so to see that, and then to look for that in the game was quite. I guess that's what drew me to watching them, because we can see or know how he's thinking and what they're trying to do. So then you can check that and compare it to his game model, which is pretty much what his paper was written on. So that's
okay.
That's
I mean, this is going to really challenge you, because I appreciate the start of the season. But would you be able to give us like a couple of the headline points or a summary of what that paper said, or some of the things he highlighted within it?
let's see. A couple things that stood out to me is, and I think this is also maybe applicable to a lot of teams or some teams now, is the structure and the roles of the players is a bit less, if a player is set up on paper as a right back, then it doesn't mean he's going to just, play the functional role of a right back, but he's also going to have, it's more of interpreting space and stuff, where they need to be in relation to the ball, in relation to the rest of the team. So it's, I guess, a bit more freedom in building their shapes and building their patterns as opposed to just static up and down the right, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No,
He also had quite a bit of detail in the way that they wanted to defend and counter press, just where they wanted to win the ball back. And they, a lot of times in possession, they're attacking with a three central defenders, but out of possession they will defend in a 4-4-2. I haven't seen a lot of them in the last month or two, but that's how they were starting the season, attacking with three central defenders but defending with two central defenders. So the in and out of possession shapes are different, which I guess we're seeing a bit more, teams maybe attack in a 4-3-3 but defend in a 4-4-2 at times, different things like that. But I would, if you can find it, I would definitely recommend having a look at it. It's quite interesting.
Is it in English or is it in Italian?
Yeah, it's. I found the version I found was translated to English. Yeah.
Perfect. I think everyone will be scrambling around on Twitter trying to find that, because that'd be really interesting. I think one of the things you've alluded to there that, to be fair, I've been having discussions about, which is quite interesting, is the evolution of the game in terms of people using different formations, both in and out of possession, but also kind of throughout a game. You look at the books that were written on Pep, like Confidential and all that type of stuff, and they discussed how he moved from different shapes throughout a game. And I'm a Spurs fan for my sins, and I think that potentially could be one of the challenges for Mourinho, is that everything I've heard about him was that his opposition reports were second to none. He was really, really good at identifying what the opposition did and being able to counter that. But I think we've got to a stage of football now where if you counter one thing in the first 15 minutes, the coach almost goes, okay, we'll change what we're going to do slightly. So this is how we're going to press you if you're playing 4-3-3. So the opposing coach goes, okay, well, now we're going to go to three at the back. So how are you going to do that? And I get the impression with him that might be one of the challenges he's facing in terms of having to evolve the way he coaches from what would have been very opposition analyze based to now you can't really analyze a team properly because it changes so fluidly throughout a game.
Right. I wish I could remember now, but I don't remember if it was Pep or Mourinho. It might have not even been one of them, but I have seen a quote quite recently. It was a little video interview where they said pretty much just what you said. The teams are so fluid that it's just it's almost not worth analyzing what they're going to do, and it's better to spend the time focusing on ourselves, your own self, about how we're going to approach the game, and not like you said, the other team could just change like that, and then you just have to focus on your own self. And I guess working at the academy level, that's something that I'm personally more used to, is focusing on ourselves and how we're going to go about the match, as opposed to getting a detailed opposition report. And of course, it's nice to know a bit about the opposition, but working with the academy players, it's more about developing them and our own game model, as opposed to adapting to the opposition. So I definitely agree with what you're saying there. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw a quote recently with a guy called Russell Martin, who's the coach of MK Dons, and he was talking about that people were criticising him for not having a plan B, and he was like, "My plan B is to do plan A better." I think that's the kind of what you're alluding to there in terms of you've got to focus on yourself and look to make improvements in whatever areas either you're doing really well or things you may be struggling with, rather than spending your entire time looking at the opposition. In terms of processes for you, so if you are sitting down to analyze a game, maybe it might be the game you've done tonight. So what process would you go through to get kind of all that clipped up? Would you have particular things in mind, or will you just kind of go where the footage takes you? What does that process look like from start to finish?
Typically, specifically for our home matches, and I usually will tag live, code the match live, and that just looks like all instances. That's the whole game model, all phases, all set pieces, all transitions. And that's done live as much as possible. But if not, then I'll of course watch it the next day if it's an away match or something like that. And usually before the match, and I'll have with my own team. Obviously, I'm in the match meetings, and if not, I'll have a meeting with the other coaches about how they're setting up for that week, like we went into earlier with our curriculum and how they're going to approach that match. So then on top of taking out all of the clips, then I'll have maybe an extra button there to take out some positive or negative along that goes with the curriculum in those phases. So as an analyst, I guess it's one thing I've learned is it's important to maybe do some small tedious work now to save yourself some time later, if that makes sense. Is if I'm going to sit there and watch the game live, then maybe hit that extra positive button a few more times, as opposed to going through all of those clips the next day. Have it available quicker, ready, because the weeks go by so fast with training every day, maybe 1-2 matches a week. Anything you can do to save the time and have the clips ready and move on to the next one.
So a lot of that coding is linked around like other team targets for that week, or what individual targets are, and you've got obviously the access to be able to press the buttons that then clip and tag those for you as you're going along.
Yeah, right. Just the KPIs for that particular week, or maybe the team in general. Just try to always add a little extra positive or negative button on the side where I can label the codes and pull them out easier after the fact.
And does that change when you're looking at the bigger teams? So if you're watching Man City versus Liverpool, would that be the same process you go through, or when you're looking to analyze them, would you go for a different process?
If I'm going to watch a Premier League match or something, I'll usually just sit there and watch it live on the TV, and not going to do. If it's a match I'm really, really interested in, maybe I'll go back the next day or on the next weekend and take out some clips just for myself personally or something like that. But no, when I'm watching those type of matches, it's try to be a little bit more for enjoyment, I guess.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, no, it makes sense, because I'd imagine if you've got your analytical brain on all the time, it could be hard to switch off. But I was just curious as to whether, if you were going to watch one of those games, whether you went in with a theme to look at, or whether themes just kind of come out as you're going along.
Yeah, I would say a bit of both. Like I said, I'm always trying to recently look at the way teams are building up and stuff, and but it's not always where I can sit down and watch the match from start to finish. So it just depends on the day, the match, how I'm feeling that day, I guess.
Yeah, in terms of where performance analysis is going, where do you see, what would you see like the holy grail of the department, both, I guess, internally, but also externally? How would you imagine it being, what would the best practice be for people using that type of system and software to help player development and player performance?
I think maybe I've touched a bit on this answer earlier, and that's as far as I would say two things that I'm working on in our academy. Is like the data. I think it's not something I'm personally really good with yet, but it's something I would say I'm interested in and interested in developing in for myself and the academy and the players. Is the interpreting the data, but obviously as an analyst, a performance analyst, it's just off the back of the video. It's just something to supplement, something to help. I don't think it's obviously the only way we can look at the game, but I definitely think the data analytics can be quite useful to back up what we're seeing and see if it matches the eye test. But of course, we always have to believe what we're seeing as well. But I think I definitely am interested in where the data is developing. And then as far as the video and how we're going to go about using it, I think that's always something that can be developed, and it's not gonna ever be perfect, because as soon as we find the best way to do that, then that's gonna maybe get boring for the players after 3 months of watching this 5-minute sequence or something like that. So I think as far as engaging the players and sharing, it's just always to come up with something new, and always a different way to share, a different way to engage them. Like I said, getting them to take out the clips is something currently where I feel it's a good way to go. And that could look different ways too. It could be an individual player asking them to take out individual clips of themselves. It could be asking them to take out team clips, or it could be putting the back line together after a match and having them sit down and take out clips of the build up, or having them take out clips of the rest defensive. Are we positioned correctly there, or maybe putting the right side together after a match, the right back, the right central mid, and the right wing, and ask them to take out some clips of where they're combining good, or where they could position themselves better in relation to each other. So I think there's always I don't think there will ever be a best practice. I think it's always just going to be developed, and maybe we'll go back to square one in a few years and do it more simple, and then just keep going from there, and just always keeping the players engaged, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's a real interesting space. I mean, I've had different uses of it. I think one of the things that the kids that I work with really liked was just the shot graph. So, we were able to clip up all of the shots they'd taken over a day, and then produced a graph off the back of that of where those shots went. And it was a really nice visualization of the fact that most of them went straight at the goalie. And it was just something that we then, on the next fixture, just said, what did we learn from our shot graph last week? And they mentioned shooting at the goalie. So what we're going to try and do today, it was something really small in their head, but as they're playing, focus to hit on the corners. I think, the ability for us to create that shot graph essentially came from being able to watch the footage. So I think that was a really nice way of doing it. But if you did that every week, that might lose its appeal. One thing I think they do in rugby really well, from people I've spoken about, is like captains runs throughs on Friday. So rather than the coaches taking a session before the game, the players do it, and they go through certain sessions. And it might be, like you've alluded to there, actually on a Friday afternoon, you provide space for the defenders, midfielders and strikers to go and pre-brief themselves on what the tasks are for our unit over the weekend, and then we're going to revisit that on Monday to see, did we do that using the footage, etc. But I think what you're essentially saying is variety is the key. And if you try and do it in one particular way, it's going to get tedious and boring. So actually dipping into all those creative ideas of how you can use it is probably the best way to go.
Yeah, exactly. It's variety is variety is key. You know, nobody wants to sit and watch the same clips week after week in the same presentation. So it's just you know, a football matches can only be broken down so much to where you know, they can be broken down further, I suppose, but what you can actually take from it in a general sense and move on, and how you can adapt that to the players. So
there's only so much motivational music you can hear during videos as well, I guess, right?
exactly.
So I've got one last question. It's something that I ask everyone, which is, who's the best either player you've played with or against, or coach, or for your case, analyst that you've worked with or against, and why?
I guess I'll have to take the easy way out here, and it was when I first moved to Molde. Solskjaer, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, was coaching at he was also coaching at Molde, but he was also coaching his son's team in the local side, and we met them in an indoor tournament. So I would definitely have to say, when I was standing on the same sideline as Solskjaer against him, was definitely the easy answer there.
Has he changed now he's at Man United, or is it the same person between the two? On the touchline, at least.
That's a difficult question to answer. That was a long time ago, so.
No, that's fine. Listen, Eric, I really appreciate your time, and I think there's loads of really good considerations that people can have around the analysis space and how it's used. And as I said earlier, I'm sure everyone will now be on Twitter looking to find that Perlo paper. So fingers crossed we can try and find it. But I really appreciate your time, and hopefully catch up with you again soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. It was a good chat.
Cheers. Thanks for listening to the Sports Initiative podcast with me, Michael Wright. Please remember to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at the Sports Initiative Podcast, and share this podcast with friends and family. I'll see you next week.